Festive Focaccia with Feast. I'm really excited that you're here. And if someone comes in after we started, I may catch them up, but we'll be all good. So I created this specific focaccia recipe for a short interval class. And when we add our ingredients, we're going to put a little bit of sugar in the dough that makes the dough go a little faster. The yeast is going to eat that sugar, so don't worry about having, extra calories or whatever from that. But if you have time to slow down this recipe the next time you make it, you'll find that you get even better texture and flavor from it. All right. So just to start, I want to show you that I really like to weigh my flour. It makes such a difference in terms of being accurate, and I can show you why. So here I have this is how I keep my flour in a big Tupperware container. And I got my cups in there so I don't forget what I'm doing. So we're going to measure out 2 3/4 cups of flour. And, I see some people in my classes, they'll take their measuring cup and they'll scoop through and they'll pack it down. And that's just an unknown amount of flour. The best way, if you don't have a scale, is to sort of fluff up the flour. I've heard some people use a whisk to do this, just kind of whisk up the flour to re-aerate it, fill the measuring cup, and then flatten the top across so that you've got a not packed cup of flour that's even across the top. But even more accurate is to have a little scale. It does not take up very much room in your kitchen. This is a very slim scale. And I will zero out the bowl. And I'm going to put about 410 grams of flour. So that's 1 cup. Let's just see how accurate my scooping and leveling off is. 2 cups and 3/4 of a cup. Okay, 348. I actually went closer to 400, so I did not do a very good job scooping myself. So I've got about 400 grams of flour. Just going to take my flour out of the way. And now I tend not to use the scale for the smaller measurements like the yeast and the sugar. It's just easier for me to use a tablespoon. But I know that my pastry chef friends do that. So I've got, I'm going to do two teaspoons of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And believe me, if you make bread and you forget the salt, you have a very bland loaf of bread. So you definitely don't want to omit the salt in the bread. And then 2 teaspoons of yeast. And I have a bulk package of yeast here. I keep it in the freezer, even though it says it was best by last year. Sometime it's been working. It lasts for a long time. These are sort of freeze dried and they work well. Okay. So there are all my dry ingredients in the bowl. I've got a spatula to just combine it gently. And then I'm going to add 1.5 cups or 350 mLs of warm water. So as I said, this water needs to be no warmer than bath water or like body temperature. And mine is a little warm still. I filled it with my Instahot thinking it could have cooled off. So let me just dump out a little bit and add a little bit more cool water. Okay. That is much better. So you want it, not over 102 degrees if you have a thermometer for sure. But the best way to measure it is just to put your finger in. And if it feels comfortable, then that's it. And we're going to dump that in. So I was telling Terry and her friends that I am a savory side chef. I did not really train in pastry, although when I went to culinary school, we did have to take pastry. I was kind of famous for forgetting an ingredient. So when I make bread, I look for recipes that are not complicated. And, bread has been made for centuries. It's really alchemy, flour and water. It shouldn't be that complicated. I know that Teresa is an amazing baker. She does lots of yummy breads. I actually used her advice to make my Thanksgiving rolls. I froze them, and that worked out really well. So this is it. It's very, very unglamorous. It does not need to be very well kneaded because it is very well hydrated. So what happens when the flour is well hydrated, it does the same enzymatic action that a lot of kneading does. And also focaccia is traditionally not kneaded. It is a wet dough. So this is almost like a batter. It's very, very loose. All right, so I'm just stirring it to make sure it's combined, that all the flour lumps are out. And then I'm going to make my focaccia in my cast iron pan. I've actually got two because I set one up early to show you. But I'm going to put this one into a cast iron pan. So let me show you what I'm going to do. And because this is a faster rise, designed for the length of a class, we will not move it again. So we're going to put it in the pan in just a second, and then we won't move it. And that way we won't knock any bubbles out of it as we go. So this pan measures about 14 inches across. It's just a standard cast iron pan. Any pan that could go in the oven that you don't have to worry about the handle is fine. I chose a round because I want to do a wreath, but I also have a rectangular pan. So like a lasagna shaped pan, or I have these quarter sheet trays, something like that would work. Does everybody feel comfortable with what they're going to eventually bake it? I see people stirring, so I don't want to get too far ahead. In the recipe, it calls for, under the focaccia section, it says olive oil. That olive oil is not actually going to go in the dough. It's going to go kind of around the dough. So we'll start with some oil in the pan that we'll bake the focaccia in. And I'm going to put, 2-3 tablespoons in. You don't want it too much so that it's greasy, but a little olive oil on the bottom does help make that crispy bottom crust that is a hallmark of really good focaccia. And I'm going to just rub it in with my fingers a little bit so it's all around there. It also will help get it out of the pan, obviously. That's the advantage. And then I'm just going to dump my dough into the pan, and we're going to let it sit for a while. So nothing fancy here. Just going in. I am an incessant bowl scraper. I don't know about you all. I just can't stand. I think it's, because I've worked in restaurants where food waste or food cost is such an issue. So I don't like to leave anything behind. But, when I was a kid, I was always very disappointed. I had an aunt who's a great baker, and she would always scrape all the cupcake, batter. I mean, she'd scrape it all in. I'd be like, well, I wanted to lick some of that. Anyway, so you can see here that my dough has not really quite filled the pan, and that is fine. I'm going to try to level it out a little bit with my spatula, but it's going to expand as it rests. So we're going to let this rest for a while we plan our designs. And I managed to get it all the way out. Let's see. I guess this side looks on the camera like it's not quite there, but it is in real life. It's actually pretty well there. Scrape that again because I can't stop myself. Okay, now I'm just going to set this aside. I'm going to put a kitchen towel, nothing fancy. Well, it is fancy. It's my holiday towel. I'm just going to cover it and put it aside. And let me show you one that I have done earlier, just to show you the difference in a little bit of advanced work. So I made this almost exactly an hour ago. So just after I got everything set up and I pulled out everything I was going to use, I made a batch of focaccia dough, the same exact measurement, nothing different. And I put it in this is called a quarter sheet pan. It's a half of a regular oven size pan. And it only filled about 3/4 of the pan. I encouraged it a little bit with my fingers, and I just let it sit. And over the time that it sat there, this last hour, it filled out completely, and it's gotten nice and puffy, and it's looking really nice. So if you have more time, or you want to wait this afternoon or this evening, you don't want to bake this right away, you can just let it sit and rise a little more. You could put this in the refrigerator. Whoops, sorry about that. You could put this in the refrigerator and like if you made it in the morning and let it sit, put it in the refrigerator, come back in the evening and bake it again. But you don't want to let it go too much more than about 10 or 12 hours because the yeast eventually literally runs out of gas. And they call it overproofing. So the yeast gets tired by the time you put it in the oven. All right, you guys have lots of bowls there. You must be making lots of focaccias. Are you giving gifts, Teresa? Everybody's answering. It's great.
No, it's
all making our own.
Yeah, that's what we're doing too.
Wow. Wonderful. That's great. I love that you're all working together. It's fun to see people together in their kitchens again. Fantastic. Okay, so let me just tell you what I'm planning, and then I want to ask you all about your ingredients and what you're planning to do, and if you have any ideas. So in my round pan, I'm going to make a wreath. So this time while we're waiting for our dough to proof up a little bit is when we're going to plan our adventure here. So I wanted to not buy a thing today. I wanted to really make my focaccia topping about just leftovers that I had on hand. And boy, my house has lots of vegetable leftovers. So I purposely did not go out. You know, if I had gone out, I probably would have gotten some cherry tomatoes because they're so beautiful, you know, bright red, and they bake really well, but I didn't have any. And so I tried to refrain from running out at lunch to buy some. So here's what I have, though. I'm kind of excited about this. I have rosemary because I have a big rosemary bush. So if I want to make a wreath, this is a little too woody to eat. I have some pieces that will bend. I could make a nice circle, or at least start a circle, because, you know, it's going to be delicious, right, on the focaccia. So I could do something like shape a circle out of my rosemary. And then to reinforce the circle of the wreath, I had an idea that this broccoli, I have some of this long stemmed, I think it's like a broccolini mixture cross, that they would make really pretty flowers on the wreath. And so I cut a few of these florets off of my broccolis. And I thought this would be really nice to kind of lay in there and give it a little bit more of that greenery look. So here's the thing about rosemary. It starts to get woody right about here, and woody is not what you want to eat. So I'm just going to take those pieces off. Maybe I can use those later. So I'm just kind of laying out these ideas because the nature of our focaccia is we don't want to place and replace too much on our dough because we'll deflate it. So if I plan this out here, then I can lay it down onto my focaccia. I have out in the garden, I had a little bit of basil, and we have had some frost. I know probably it's past that season for some of you, but these little blossoms that come on the basils are sort of pretty. So I could put those in my wreath just to get a little color. I had one like jalapeno that survived the frost last night. That's nice and red. But I also have a bell pepper. And these will make nice little, I think I'll make some berry shapes out of them. And I just want to show you, this is how I like to cut a bell pepper. I always cut off the end with the stem. And then I cut the bottom. And I will use this. So far my only waste is this the stem piece here. And then this piece, the easiest way to get a nice, easy to deal with is I cut off this section like that. And then I go through and I cut the ribs. And then I have a big piece. So, you know, whether I'm cutting this up for a salad or, you know, to put in anything else, I really like to have these bigger pieces to work with. So I thought it might be kind of cute to make little circles that look like berries. I have a piping tip. So I have some little cookie cutters. I have a heart where I even have this little ornament. I don't know why I have this little ornament shape, but I really like actually this simple little circle that a piping tip makes. I'm going to make a little round So I think I'll put some little berries like that on my wreath. And I'll probably put them in groups of 3. So I'm wondering what kind of interesting produce you all have sourced or scrounged to make your designs with. It's cherry tomatoes, the queen. They are the queen of the red fruits for sure for the winter. So those are going to look really cute. I did a little bit of my prep work earlier. I had also a yellow bell pepper that was not looking really pretty. So I cut it up also. And I experimented with my circle cutter. And also with the scraps, I made some lines. So I might put a few just for color, I'm going to look for some color across this like so. But I also have a little heart. Maybe I'll put it at the bottom here. I'm going to have some more of my cute little circles. So that's kind of fun. So it's looking sort of rustic fun here. One thing that is so delicious on these garden focaccias is red onion. So if you have a red onion, I want to show you a little trick. And I'm going to ruin my design here because I need a little space on my board. I should be able to pick that up pretty quickly. So this red onion, I am going to cut the stem and the root end off. Put that aside, and I'm going to peel it before I like to cut my onions in half before I peel them because it's a little easier, but I'm going to peel this one into a circle. Not peel it into a circle. I'm going to peel it while it's still whole, while it's still a sphere. So one really, just very naturally pretty shape is to get the concentric circles that make up an onion. So these are really pretty too. They make really nice, like when we're doing flowers in the summer, you can take some of the little ones and put them back into the bigger ones like that. That is really cute. And when they bake up, they're just so delicious. So I have started to think about my my focaccia in terms of what's going to be in every bite. So I like to have my design sort of spread around. And lots of scraps here now. I'm going to now take my onion and I'm going to cut down through the middle. And I'm going to put the flat side down so it doesn't roll away from me. And I'm just going to cut a flat piece out of the inside part of the onion. And when I lay it flat, I can open it up a little bit like that. And that makes a beautiful flower too. Let me turn it around so it's facing you. And boy, this is a strong onion. I am getting a little teary-eyed over here, just thinking about how good it's going to taste. But as I was laying one of these out today, it occurred to me, this kind of looks like a candle. This little inside piece it looks like a candle flame. And I thought it might be kind of cute to make like a red candle. Wouldn't that be fun? All right, I'm going to do the other inside. So you get 2 really good pieces like this out of the center of an onion. And I really recommend that you cut the top off first so that you have a flat place to cut from. So that's an even fatter flame if you like it. You could even make a fatter candle.
Do you think I could make the flame with a piece of garlic? Because I don't have onion.
Ooh, delicious.
Okay.
Right.
So
I naturally think so. I think I'm going to steal your idea. Such a good idea. Now, I also want to let you know here, just in the interest of food waste, I have a bowl for scraps like this, right? Like that's not a gorgeous piece of bell pepper, but I'm going to cut it up a little bit more and it's going to go in a stir fry or I'll probably make some fried rice. I've got leftover white rice, so I'll throw that in my stir. So I try to save my scraps and not, to make a total waste. But I love this idea of the candles. And here's an idea. I've got these, so this rosemary that's kind of too woody, when you pull backwards on a piece of rosemary, you can get the leaves off a little better. So you could make a little greenery down there under the candles. That would be really pretty. Oh, you guys have rosemary, yeah. Oh, it just smells so good, doesn't it? The rosemary. I just love it. So you could do a wreath, you could do some candles. My onion voluntarily gave me another little flame. So maybe I'll do one with 3 red candles. So the other thought that I had for a really fun festive, and in the handout, we gave you some nice pictures of some ideas. But I also had the idea that it would be fun to make a garland of little fairy lights, Christmas lights. And so I have my round focaccia that has proofed long enough. I'm going to say the focaccias that you put together, let's wait a few minutes before you lay your toppings down on it. But this would be a good time to preheat your oven. So this recipe likes a hot oven, about 375. So if you want to turn your oven on to 375, this is a good time. Yeah, question.
On the top of it, could we use something like sea salt sprinkled on the top of the focaccia?
You definitely do. I will absolutely do sea salt. So I'm going to do sea salt. I might even do a little bit of other herbs. So I'm in love with this Aleppo pepper I get at the grocery store. The restaurant I worked at, we used to buy it from a fancy place, and I found these. I like it because it's kind of it's almost like chili flake for pizza. It's got some nice, and it adds a little red. And I have some big flaky salt here. And I thought dill being green might be a fun color to add onto there too. So anything that is dry, like rosemary or the broccoli, I'm going to recommend that you get a small bowl and put a little bit of olive oil in it and pre-moisten those things, because once they get in the oven, especially when the oven's a little bit hot, they will kind of toast, and they can burn instead of bake. Anything wet like the onion, the garlic, the peppers, all that, you don't really need to worry about that. So I'm just going to get this rosemary kind of slightly oily. I'm going to move my candles to the side. And I'm going to make a really cute little greenery base here. In fact, you can take, if you think of this as a frame, you could put a couple little decorative pieces up here in the corners. So this is the time of year at work we do lots of cookie decorating classes, and I always tell people there's no such thing as a bad cookie design. If you don't like it, you eat it. So if there's something that you don't love about your design, you can redo it, or you can eat it and do it next time. There's no worries. So I've got a little rosemary here. And maybe I'll just put a few on there because they're just delicious to eat. And I'll put my candles down here in the greenery. All right. And I've lost a flame. I don't know where my other flame went. But I'll get one out of the middle of the heart of this onion. I should get some garlic out. I didn't even think about the garlic. That would have been such a good idea. Okay, so here is just an idea that I had that you could have if you want to. I was thinking of like a strand of lights. And for the string of my lights, I have these green onion tops. And I thought that if I cut them like this into a narrower band. There we go. And because they're kind of flexible, that I might be able to make them, make them go like that. And then I can make little lights on my garland here by either using my circles, and I kind of like those. Stealing from my wreath stuff here, that's okay. Or I can also use a little bit of my herbs and that chili flakes. So maybe I'll do some of everything. I'll do a little bit of it all. I'll sprinkle a little bit of dill on that because dill is delicious. Smells good now too. So these onions, the flames on these onions right now, flames on the candles are a little bit hard to see, but they're going to bake nice and brown. So a little chili flake. And now remember, I am also thinking about how this is going to taste. So I'm trying to get my my herbs a little bit kind of all over the place. All right, and Terry, like you all mentioned, now I have some salt. I have this big format Malden salt that I really like. I'm going to make it nice and salty. And now it needs a little olive oil on top. So one of the hallmarks, again, of focaccia is its sort of dimply holes that will hold a little bit of olive oil. So because this is a quick risen bread, I am trying not to deflate it too much. I'm just very gently poking a little hole in there. So I can drizzle. This is maybe, I'd say at the most 2 tablespoons of oil. We don't want it too oily, but it will be delicious that way. So this is the one that I had earlier, remember, that's why it's a little puffier. Yours is probably not this puffy yet. This is the only time where puffy is a good thing, right? So when I go back to my skillet though, I am getting a nice beginning rise here. And I think we've given it just enough time that we can start the design. So I'd love to see what you all are planning and doing so I can steal more of your ideas like the garlic, if you want to show me. Anything good going on?
I'm going to make mine a sweet bread instead of vegetable.
Very good. Good idea. So what are you
Because I
putting?
don't like vegetable.
That tree is gorgeous, Terry. That's beautiful. Did y'all see Terry's? So we've got Teresa and Terry. So
Yeah,
Can you show
Terry,
it
can
again?
you show it again?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, that
that's
does
pretty.
look
very
great.
nice. I love it. And, so it looks beautiful. It's going to be a great presentation. But, to me as an eater and a chef, the thing I love is it's going to taste good in every bite. You're going to have a little bit of everything in the bite. So, Majine, what are you putting on to make it sweet? Chocolate chips, I bet.
This is cinnamon chips.
Oh, cinnamon chip. I've never heard of cinnamon
Reset
chips.
had them.
That sounds good.
And then I'm gonna put it in an order to make it look like a tree, a little Christmas tree. So yeah.
I like that. Great idea. So what else can you put with cinnamon? You could put some, I don't know, like winter fruits you could also put on, right? If they don't have to be vegetables, you could put apple slices with your cinnamon. So it could be like apple cinnamon bread.
I don't like fruits and things.
You don't like fruits either?
I like fruits, but I don't like it mixed with my other things.
Got it. To be honest, my daughter doesn't like fruit at all. The only fruit she likes is raspberry. Of course, she had to pick the most expensive fruit to like, right? So, I got you. I get it. It's all good.
Okay, so we'll make a little room.
Should I move it?
Yeah.
Oh, so nice. And oh, and that you've got a skillet just like mine. Cute. I like it. You guys are doing great work. All right, so I do have also my broccoli pieces that I'm going to put oil on, just because I've learned from experience that they bake better when I put a little oil. And I've lost my oiling bowl. Nope, I put it over here. Any unusual ingredients? I mean, other than the cinnamon sugar, which I really like. Such a great idea. Maybe we'll have to steal that idea. Festive sweet focaccia breads, right? Yeah. I have no problem with that. I know you like cinnamon. I even thought about the stems of these broccolinis as being like part of the garland for the lights, but I think I like those green onion strips better. So everything I put down on here, I'm really just trying to keep sort of in this green circle. And I even like the leaves that come with this kind of broccoli. And I think they're going to make my wreath look even more leafy and nice. I'm just going to keep layering them on there. There's almost no limit to how much you can put on here. And, you know, since I've cut open that onion, I'm just, because I know it's so delicious baked into the bread, I'm going to add some of these. I was teaching one of these the other day and somebody sliced a mushroom and it looked like a little elf's foot and it was so funny. Let's see if I can make that happen again. So when you cut the mushroom, just, you know, like a regular mushroom slice, if you cut it in half, they look like two little elf boots. And then they tried to cut some, I'm going to put a little oil on that. They tried to cut some, you know, like make that elf on the shelf looking guy. I think he's sort of evil. I'm glad my kids were too old for that. But I can put little legs up there. I haven't thought this one all the way through, this elf guy. But I think that these, his little feet will be more visible once it's cooked. So I have this end of the bell pepper. Maybe I'll try using that for his body. So without even too much cutting, looks like his bum there. I've got elf bum.
You might even be able to use like the edges of the peppers for the boots.
Oh yes, such a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, the peppers are nice because they have the natural curves and shapes to them. So you can get lots of different things cut out of them. Let's put some more onion on here. I know the onion's great. I need to, shoot, I forgot to peel some garlic. Maybe I'll just put some garlic salt on this just to get the garlic flavor. It's a great reminder. That's why I do these classes, because you guys have all the good ideas. And then I think, look at that. I learn more teaching than I give out some days, I think. Here's my cute little purple guys. He's hiding. He's just gotta, maybe I can make some space up here for the rest of him. All right. So I'm located in California and we got all the way down to almost 20 degrees last night. Isn't that crazy? I feel like I pay tax not to have to get that cold at night. And maybe he needs arms. Do you think he needs arms? My elf. So if you move like I'm doing, you'll see that there's a little stickiness involved with the dough, which is good. That's what you want. It's got little arms. And now I have lots of yummy scraps. So I have another little tip for you, which is if you have a jar of marinara sauce or maybe some pesto, that is great dipping for this. But balsamic oil is also really delicious. But if you're bringing this to a party, which is a really fun party piece to bring a little extra bowl of some pesto and some marinara. So you've got your red and your green to go with your very festive design. And you're all set. You'll look like the most prepared. Oh, cute. Let's see. Okay, Australian Christmas. Yep, there's your candles. Very nice. I like how that you've distributed all around. Australian Christmas always confuses me. Like, it's summer. So is that I know we have Christmas weeks off of school, but is it like summer vacation in Australia?
Yes. So it's so the schools have already closed.
Yeah, when they reopen, it's a new
And
year.
they
Like a new
reopen
grade
in
level.
February. And so it's summer vacation over the Christmas and New Year holiday. And most businesses close between Christmas and New Year as well.
Yes.
So fabulous.
Yes, that is not very American. We do things differently. My first trip to Australia, we stopped in New Zealand, which isn't really on the way when you think about how far it is, but we were there for Easter week because that's when the schedule worked out for us. And we stayed, it was pre-Airbnb days. We stayed in a farm stay. And the people were very confused. They're like, wait, it's Easter Monday. Where are you going to go? Everything's closed. And we just had no clue that,
Everything shuts down on Good Friday, Easter Monday. There's nothing.
Lovely. As long as you're prepared for that, it's lovely, right? It's a very nice thing. Yeah. So one of my Australian friends got me hooked on this Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. It's called Miss Fisher Mysteries. Do you know that? Yeah, 2 thumbs up. I just love that show. The costuming is so beautiful. I'd say it's family friendly, wouldn't you? I can't think of anything that's not, family.
Yeah.
Right. And the costumes are beautiful. There's all these murder mysteries all around, kind of, beautiful scenery all through Australia. And that was the first time it actually occurred to me. They were doing their Christmas special and it was all summery. And it was like, oh, I'm so confused.
Most of it's filmed in Melbourne, which is where I live. And it's, And you spend half the time going, I know where that is. I know where that is.
I do that with San Francisco films too. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's good. Wonderful. All right. So how do you know when it's ready to put in the oven? All right. So let me cut back to my close up here. When I push my finger down, I'm going to do it in a very visible place. You don't have to do it in a visible place for you because you don't want to ruin your design. When I go push my finger in, it's about twice as deep as when we started. So it's almost going into the first knuckle here. And I'm going to come back out again. So see, I've kind of wrecked my middle. That's okay. So when you do it off to the side of yours. And that's when you've risen enough that you can go into the oven now. And it's going to take you a good 20 to 25 minutes. So we probably won't be still together when your bread comes out of the oven. But I'm going to put mine in now and wash my hands. And I will be right back. And we can talk about that oven piece. Oh. Okay, sorry about that. All right, how is the designing going? I see you're ripping some, is that kale you're ripping out? No. Broccoli?
Sage.
Sage. Great idea. All the herbs are great for these. And like the rosemary, I'd recommend that you oil it just a little bit so that it doesn't get too, too dry and crumbly. You've got a little bit of a, makes it more like a chip, than a little burnt offering, like dried herb. So I have all these scraps around me to clean up, but that's great.
You know what?
Do you think that looks like a star, man?
Yes.
Yeah, you could cut strips to make stars for sure. If you have little cookie cutters, you can try doing some cookie cutter shapes in that as well. So these onion pieces can also look like, if you're doing sort of a starry night, they can look like the, just cut them in half. They can look like the clouds around the stars. You could do sort of a winterscape scene all around. And then put some little star pieces in there. You don't even have to have it so exact to be cut as a star, right? So little tiny squares of yellow bell pepper or really anything can just be used to suggest the stars, right? Our eyes will fill in the detail and know what that's meant to represent. Our brains and our eyes are really good at finding patterns. So you could do a design like that to suggest a sky, and then you can do your, something below, whether it's candles or anything you like, really. It's the great thing about this, you can do any sort of seasonal design that you like. So when you've got a puff that your finger goes into about twice as deep as when you started, you know that you're ready to go into the oven. And I want to advise you that all professional bakers, my cat thinks he's going to come up here. All professional bakers think that most home bakers underbake their goods. So we're always looking for what we like to call GBD, which means golden brown delicious. So you want to make sure that your focaccia has a nice browning. It's not overly blonde because that's what adds flavor. And it makes sure that the middle of your dough isn't, still too wet. It's got to be baked fully to develop all the flavors. With those little spots of brown around the top. And then you can usually take a knife or a fork and kind of flip up the corner, or I'm in a circle, you don't have a corner, but flip it up just a little bit to see, are you getting browning on the bottom as well? So if you've done a nice job oiling the bottom of your pan, that shouldn't be a problem. Oil transmits heat better than just the metal itself. So that's how you know that it's done. So you touch it, it feels dry to the touch. It doesn't feel like it's going, down like raw dough. And you've got beautiful browning. You really want to find both of those in your finished breads. And I'm just rubbing that olive oil into my hands because my hands are so dry this time of year. I don't know if you have the same thing. I've got spices too, but that'll just be tasty later on, I guess. Yeah. So do you have any questions or comments or anything that you want to bring up about this bread or any other cooking things?
No, this was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Good. I'm so pleased that you've all gathered in your kitchens together to do this too. It makes me very happy to feel like you're, with friends and enjoying things together, and maybe a glass of wine or,
Too.
Yeah. Well, we went to high school together, so
Yeah.
so we've known each other that long.
Yeah, that's long.
Yes, I love that. That's wonderful. That's great. So you've known each other 5 or 10 years already. That's good.
So now it takes about 20 minutes when it's ready, and that's it.
Yep. So about 20 minutes. Let me see what I wrote in the recipe, but that's generally what I start to look at it at 20. Yeah. Rest and rise. Ooh, there's an ant in my recipe. That's not a good sign.
No. Pulled out of her.
Yeah, about 20 minutes. But never let, especially in baking, never let the time in a recipe be your finished guide. I really
Okay.
like people to learn to cook intuitively,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to that baking piece, right? So, and especially now that I've done so many of the virtual cooking classes, we really learn that people's ovens are kind of all over the place in terms of the thermostat.
Yeah.
So if your oven is even, 5 or 10 degrees cooler than it should be, you could take an extra 10 to 15 minutes. So if you ever had that frustrating experience where like, the recipe it's just wrong. It's a great idea to, at the grocery store, you can buy an inexpensive thermometer, put it in your oven. And if it's not the same, like when your oven says, yes, I'm at 375, the one inside says, oh, you're actually 350. It's not that hard to calibrate your oven dial. So you can find a YouTube tutorial, believe it or not, to like, it's just a thing that you do on the dial to fix it. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, your first indication that that's the case is that when you bake something, especially baking, it will be ready too soon or ready and, not ready in too long. I don't know how to phrase that. So that's your first indication that it's really time to go check that.
Okay.
So wonderful. Well, I hope that we see you in another class. We've got next Friday, same time, we're doing puff pastry with brie and cranberry and my favorite spiced olives. So I'm a massive olive fanatic.
Yes. Same here.
Yeah. I might even stuff a few with some blue cheese and show you my trick for that. So we'll see.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
week.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, enjoy all your friendships and hope to see you again in another class or in a coaching class that we do. All right. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I tell you, my brother had a horrible experience, but I really liked her.